Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independent Street NOLA and Seasons and Ritual, and I want to jump on here real fast to talk about a few things, a few themes that I've seen that have been coming up for roughly about the past 2.5 weeks or so, and how I am seeing it with the astrology, with what's going on right now. I don't think we'll pull any cards in this episode due to the fact that I am balancing my computer on my knee because I am visiting my mother. So first and foremost, just feeling a lot of the energy around. It's been fucking wacky for the past about 3 weeks, I would say. Ever since maybe, as my friend put it yesterday, ever since the assassination attempt on Trump, she said since then, she was like, energy has been wild. So much has been coming up. And when she said that, that was literally the fourth person who has said the same thing. So I said, well, and I told her the same thing I told the other one. So I said, let me come on and do a video. And even um this morning, a friend texted me and decided she had quote unquote had enough and she was putting her brother in the freezer. So if you know, you know. And I was like, I'm going to do a video on this today. So here we are. So first and foremost, what I want to say is about healers or light workers or whatever you empaths, however you describe yourself. The reason that we sometimes feel like we get a lot or kind of like things thrown at us or get worn down is because that we show up for people. That's what we do. That's what we like to do. We like to see people happy. We like to be in the mix. We like to be of service. So because of that, because we show up for people, like my friend this morning, she was saying, her she believes her brother may have mental issues, but he's also, had drinking for many years. And so, but she's always tried to kind of be there for him. And so what I'm saying is that like there's things that we know about people, but we always try to see the good, or we can see the good, and we try to show up for them as best as we can. And because we do that, a lot of times we basically get kicked in the nuts, okay? And it hurts, right? Especially when it's people that we love and respect. Um, and then another friend came to me and she was talking about um a bunch of old boyfriends have been showing up and reaching out, and she's having to hold her boundary. And the same thing with another friend, something came up from her past, right? And so a lot of that has to do, the way that I'm reading that, is with that Chiron turning retrograde in Aries, which just happened a couple days ago. But once that, well, there's a few things, but let's just start with this one. Chiron and Aries, Chiron is the wounded healer. We usually refer to him now as the great healer. And it brings up those wounds in us that are really deep, or we feel like they are um, a thing something that we can't get over, or in some way makes us less than because we have that wound. And so that Chiron turning retrograde, was signaling to me, okay, we're going to have to go over a lot of these things that at one time, just put us on our ass, or we really believed that story, or we didn't think we were good enough, or we thought we were being unfair, or we weren't loving hard enough, all those things. And it's important to note too that the Mercury has gone into Virgo, and it's only, and Virgo wants to resolve things. And so it's goes into Virgo. It's only a few degrees into Virgo, and then it's going to start to retrograde. And I believe it goes retrograde on the 4th of August, which is also the dark moon, I believe. I can double check. Or maybe you guys should double check. But and then it retrogrades back into those late degrees of Leo. Right now, the sun is maybe at 5 degrees of Leo, and so we're still in that fresh fiery energy of Leo, which might be a lot of kind of lower ego-y issues, like getting ramped up, So then you have the sun in Leo, where it's in a young Leo, right? And then you have Chiron turning direct, where maybe these other old storylines or old people are coming back, um, and maybe they're not, I don't know, handling the best, or maybe you're not handling it the best, but it's lighting these places back up in us that we need to decide if we have healed from them in a sense, or if we still need a little work to do. And it's also asking us, are we going to keep bringing it forward, or do we really feel like giving it over to the universe, to science, whatever you want, right? Because, like I said, my friend was like, yeah, I think I've done a really good job healing some ancestral trauma and putting this guy in the freezer, and we're just going to go from there, and it is that form of surrender, because she's at a point in her life where she really does know who she is and where her heart is, and that's important, right now, as for anyone, but especially as empaths and healers, and people that move in that realm, because we've got to keep moving forward. The fact that, and I do agree with this. I was watching Sterling Sterling the psychic, or I can't remember. He's on Linda G's channel, and I check in with him every once in a while, just to see how they're feeling the energy, quite honestly. And he was saying, when he was always talking with his higher self or his guides, he always saw this female president coming in like 2032, and now the timeline, obviously, the possibility of that timeline is already here. And he said, because people have been asking them, do they feel like we've jumped timelines? He's saying no, we've compressed timelines. I don't know, semantics. But I do think there's something that's accelerated, in timelines for sure. Um, whether you believe that or not, but I do feel like something's been super accelerated, in timelines. I think that's why we're also fucking exhausted. I also think that's why, all these old fucking issues and, parables, I want to say, these stories are coming back at us, because we've really got to decide if we really want to get on with our lives. Um, and so you guys sit with this energy, if things are coming up that are, upsetting, or, um, the Olympics are on, and I think we just did something good. Okay. Um, you know, sit with it, heal it, move through it. It's going to heal a lot faster than it has. Know who you are in your heart. Really don't let people, you know, put you in that box. I had a situation come up a couple days ago, and it was really hurtful for me. I was with a person that I really admire. Um, and, you know, let's just say it went off the rails really fast, and they didn't want to hear anything I had to say. And, I was there to help them with one thing, and then, the things that they were shouting at me were just mean. And, I was just kind of taken aback. And, it didn't matter how I showed up for this person in the past. It was just, this is who I am now. This is what I stand for. They were insulting my intelligence, and it was going on and on and on. And it really, I mean, it broke my heart. Like, my heart was broken. Like, I was crying for the rest of the night. I woke up the next day with a fucking migraine. I had to go to my friend's house who was throwing a birthday party for her dying sister, and I was like, I can't be in this energy, and it was this thing where, I mean, I hadn't felt that depressed and that hopeless in years. I mean, hopeless, and that's how that person felt. And I understood that, right? Intellectually, emotionally, it took a toll on me, and it reminded me all those years before in my life where I had kind of disassociated from life, because I always felt like that. I always felt like it was my fault. I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I felt like I should be doing more. Someone always told me what a fucking idiot I was, right? All those things that she said to me, well, I can just give you the years, right? And again, I was like, why is going like, I know this person is yelling these things at me because that's how they feel. Um, at the same time, I was like, I can't keep having, we say these people can't keep laying their shit on our doorstep, right? And I don't hate this woman, I still have a lot of respect for her. And I understand, but at the same time, I don't think she understands how it was coming off, because it was really mean. Um, and it's like when we show up in these places that we deem are safe and then all of a sudden become unsafe, and then we shut down. It's like, oh, it's kind of like a surprise attack. Um, and on one hand, when we're dealing with people, not this woman, but like if we're dealing with people that have mental illness or we're dealing with people that do have drug addictions and we show up for them and we keep trying to stay on that level, but still, something will come up and we're like, oh, or like my friend who was on a date with this person and apparently he's not a very good communicator and he was just out telling her like, well, why can't you just accept that? And and she was like, because that's my boundary, like I want someone who communicates with me, and he was just like, well, can't you just say like, I'm trying my best? And I was like, "Oh," and she was just like, "No," but it's still like, and I'm sitting here and I love this girl, she's so sweet, but I was just like, "Why did you ask him, why are you why are you texting me?" Or like I think they were on a date, or like, "Why are we having this conversation on this date?" Like, it's not gonna move. It was like he wanted her to submit, right? Like, he wanted her to s and then she was like, "No, this is my boundary." Like, there's gonna be someone that she meets that's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, you want, some communication? Well, my god, maybe I'll and if I'm not really good at it and I really want this relationship to work, then maybe I'll do a little, what do you call that? Alarm on my phone. Be sure to text so and so," you know? It's like, "Oh, yeah, okay." Like, the thing is with this, you guys, find out this is quote unquote the test where the planets are now. Where are we? Have you healed? I went into that depression quickly, and I mean it lasted all night. Like I said, I woke up the next day. I had a fucking migraine. I was supposed to drive to Alabama and I was like, I was helping my friend do her laundry, all these things. And in those moments before, like the day before, none of that mattered, it didn't matter how I showed up for people and, like, or how you guys show up for people. So let me first and foremost tell you, I do see you guys showing up for people. I love you for that. I love you when you don't choose violence, you don't scream at people, you don't yell at people. Now, will you sometimes? Maybe. Maybe we're fucking people, But if you just decide I'm gonna put them in the freezer and get on with your life, that's okay too. Because where are you now and where are you moving forward? The other thing that's bringing this up, again, Mercury's going to go retrograde, so we're already in its shadow. We're going to have these conversations coming up with ourselves, especially with the sun in Leo, right? Leo's fixed fire, Leo's the inspiration. How are we going to inspire ourselves? How are we going to inspire others? Do we stay focused on the one person that's really upset, or do we take a step out and look at the big picture? And see, oh, actually, I do help all these other people. I do inspire these other people. Um, because that's where we're moving towards. Because the other thing that's in this conversation is that Jupiter and Saturn are squaring each other. So this is important. They're going to be squaring each other off and on for about a year and a half. And this is about in this they're 90 degrees right now, so they're in a square. Those squares are wanting things to be solid. The squares are where we want to put those building blocks, right? So it's going to shake things, right? It's going to bring up what isn't solid. It's going to bring up where maybe we still have a wound, if you will, or if we're still believing some old story that we need to get rid of. So thank you, Chiron. Thank you, Sun and young degrees of sweet, sweet Leo. But to remember about Jupiter and Saturn. So Jupiter and Saturn met at the Great Conjunction at 2020, 0 degrees of Aquarius. Pluto's hanging out at 0 degrees Aquarius. Okay, and now Saturn is in Pisces. Pisces represents the other, and Jupiter is in Gemini. Gemini is an air sign, right? Gemini sees the situation. Gemini in its lower self is duality. So I'm either really a piece of shit right? Who's fucking stupid, or I'm not, right? That's the old degrees of Gemini. So now I see Gemini as bringing us into unity consciousness. So I could be, am I a piece of shit? Am I not? Am I something else? So it gives us these options, and that's what Gemini is there to do. That's how I read Gemini, the twins. It keeps gathering all the information, right? And so Jupiter in there, Jupiter is going to blow that up. So on one hand, you can either stay with that duality, right? You can either stay, I'm a piece of shit, or I'm not, right? Because Jupiter will expand those things. You're either doing the right thing or you're not. There's no in between, right? Or with Jupiter being in Gemini, you can say there's many ways to get to the right thing, right? We're in a whole new timeline, right? If it compressed, whether we jumped, however you want to say it. It's not it's not the 80s anymore. It's not the 90s. It's not even the early mid 2000s, right? It's 2024. You know, there's a lot of stuff that we have to see has either passed us by or has changed, whether we want to admit to it or not, even for me. Okay. And, my sun is in Aquarius, my moon's in Leo. There's some things I really hold on to. Um, but it did. Things have moved. I'm trying to think. I think the United States won bronze because they are cheering in the gymnastics. So go team. Which again, everything that's going on in Paris should show us how we do get along, right? That's what we should be focusing on. But back to what the hell we're talking about. So Jupiter is going to blow up in Gemini what it is that you want to think about yourself, right? Because it is expansion. Now, what's interesting, again, Saturn in Pisces. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and Pisces represents the other. So, in Saturn being in there is to me getting rid of all that old age of Pisces energy. That, oh my God, I'm always so worried. Am I showing up correctly? How do they think of me? What's going on, right? So this is a real quote unquote test. Will it be the same theme as the Saturn and Jupiter square each other two more times for the next year and a half? Maybe, maybe not. But with Saturn being in Pisces, it is probably going to be something about the other and if we're over it. The other and if we've healed it. The other, do we still think about that, right? And how it might show up. So the difference is going to be Chiron's probably not going to be retrograde, right? It'll probably turn direct. We'll see where the sun is, okay, because right now the sun is in Leo. And then Pluto, though, will still be going back and forth through 0 degrees of Aquarius and 29 degrees of Capricorn, right? And so this is just so much change and so much endings and so many beginnings, right? All at the same time, which was the big theme, right, for the full moon, which was that second full moon in Capricorn. And so, if we're going back to that full moon, if we're changing the way we work and we're getting more into these ideas of the age of Aquarius, which is the individual first and then the collective, um, we're going to have to move through the idea of, well, what does the other think of me versus how do I think of myself? And it is a good place to be. It doesn't mean the other won't hurt our feelings, as witnessed by myself or witnessed by my friends or um, you know, you in the past couple weeks. But it does mean that we're going to be finding this courage to show up and who we are now in a big, big way. In such a big way. Mercury retrograding back into Leo, I see as a good thing. It's really gonna because Leo is the self, right? Leo is how we show up. Leo is the fool, Leo is the king, Leo is the queen, right? And so we're going to come back and see how are we going to be expressing ourselves in this, right? And then it'll move back into Virgo. He's going to help resolve some of those other issues that might be there. But get ready for this and know we were just squished through an intense timeline because we've got to get things moving. We got to catch up, right? Like we're still arguing over, you know, things that have been going on for millennia. And I would say this too, when it comes to the fucking United States, we're still only 245 years old. All right? Like we don't know shit. We can barely teach freaking history at this point because someone gets their feeling hurt, right? So while we might look at other countries who have been running their governments for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, I feel like we'll get there, right? I feel like we'll get there. But just kind of remember, like we're like in our terrible twos, okay? And it's not an excuse to let things go, but at the same time, maybe we're using that as an excuse, and so we need to speed things up. That might be another thing because we got to get with it, you guys. We got to get with it. We got to choose love. We've got to choose compassion. We've got to choose looking at the big picture. Some days are going to be better than others. I can tell you that right now. So I want to tell you guys, all you empaths, all you healers, all you star seeds, light seeds, whatever you want to call yourselves, wizards, warlocks, whatever, you be you guys. You do you. I'm not here to tell you. You do you. I see you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being who you are now. Sometimes we're going to get punched in the face, it doesn't mean we're down for the count. I really want you guys to see if that happens. Really check in with your heart, see where you are now, and see who you are now. See how much you've healed. So even if you do get punched in the face, how do you come back from that? Do you sit with it for 48 hours? Do you sit with it for a week? And then you're able to move on? Do you get right out of it? If you're like, that shit's not me, do you move right on? That moving on, that healing, right? That you showing up, knowing who you are is huge, is huge. So thank you for showing up. And at the same time, you don't have to keep showing up. You can put them in the freezer. You can turn it over. You can really send them love and light, Again, you don't have to hate these people. At the same time, you don't have to have people lay their shit on your doorstep. You don't have to take it. I wish, and maybe things will, I wish things are gonna speed up, I hope so. I hope so in ways that we can't see, right? Because that Pluto in Aquarius, you know, she's doing a lot that we need to catch up with. Remember, a lot of times the present is always becoming the past. So we've got to stay present to keep building the future. Does that make sense a little bit? Okay. Well, you guys, thank you for letting me come on. It's been a tough 3 weeks. We got shot through the fucking wormhole, or however you want to say it. And the themes of the self first and then the collective isn't going to go anywhere. That's where we are because we are in this age of Aquarius. Okay. So Pluto's retrograde, Mercury's about to turn retrograde, Chiron's retrograde, Jupiter, Saturn are in that square. There's a lot of movement and a little bit moving back, right? Because we got to get our sneakers on, right? We got to get our feet underneath us. So we know we can keep walking forward. So hang in there. If you guys need anything, reach out below in the comments. Thank you for being you. Thank you for putting people in the fucking freezer if that's what you got to do. Take care of yourselves. Drink lots of water. It's hot outside. Have fun watching the Olympics if that's what you choose to do. And have fun if you just want to go veg in nature, whatever you guys. All right. Talk to you soon.